You don't belong here, Elain. This isn't your kind of place anymore. That's what my sister Melissa said, loud enough for the entire dinner table to hear. And just like that, the laughter stopped. Everyone stared at me like I was some kind of stain on their perfect evening, uninvited, unwanted, and apparently, unworthy. Before we go deeper, if you've ever been the underdog in your own family, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story, because what happened next? You won't believe it. I had barely touched the roasted lamb on my plate. My hands were cold, but not from the AC, from shame. My cousin Tyler chuckled under his breath, and Aunt Karen just sipped her wine like nothing had happened. I was sitting in the same dining room where we'd spent every childhood Christmas, and now, I was the outsider. Let's be honest, Melissa added, leaning back smugly. You're barely making ends meet. You should have just skipped this dinner and saved yourself the embarrassment. The nerve. The fake pity in her tone cut deeper than any insult, but I stayed silent. Because the truth? I let them believe. I was struggling. They didn't know I'd built something big, while they were busy mocking my small freelance gigs and calling me a dropout. They had no idea I had closed a deal last week that would make everything mine. My brother Nick chimed in next. You still living in that tiny apartment above the grocery store? Laughter erupted from the table again. I forced a tight smile. Yeah, still there. And they bought it. Every last one of them. What they didn't know was that I had signed papers that morning, for the exact house we were sitting in. The family home. Grandma's legacy. The place they thought belonged only to them, but I was saving that little surprise for dessert. Melissa clinked her wine glass with her husband and flashed that signature condescending smile. You know, Elain, she said with a sugary voice, it's actually kind of impressive how you manage to show up every year with absolutely nothing to contribute. That one hit differently. My grip on the fork tightened, but I still said nothing. I scanned the room. Every single face at that table had once pretended to love me. But tonight, the masks were off. All I could see was pride, jealousy, and fake sympathy hiding behind polite smiles. Even Uncle Ray, who I thought was neutral, looked down at me like I was some kind of charity case. Melissa's husband, Greg, leaned in. We were all actually wondering how you even found out about this dinner. I mean, the invite wasn't exactly public. The table laughed again. They'd planned this, intentionally left me out, and I still showed up. That bothered them more than anything. I looked at the chandelier above. It used to be Grandma's favorite piece. She always said, this house will go to the one who understands family, not the one who wants to control it. And when she passed, she left the house in trust, waiting for the right buyer in the family. None of them knew I was that buyer. For the past 2 years, I worked in silence. Waking up at 4 a.m., coding for 12 hours straight, freelancing for startup after startup. I skipped holidays, missed birthdays, and poured every dime into building an automation platform that took off, quietly. No flashy cars. No Instagram posts. Just pure, silent hustle. And last month, a tech firm bought it for $3.80 million. But I didn't tell anyone. I kept showing up in the same old car, same clothes, same story. Because I was watching. Watching who saw me as disposable. Watching who laughed. Watching who plotted against me when they thought I was powerless. And now, here they were, sitting inside my house. I heard someone bought this place last week, Tyler suddenly blurted out. Can you believe that? Some idiot paid full price. Imagine wasting that much on an old house. Melissa laughed. Well, hopefully it's someone with taste. This family needs some class injected into it. I bit my tongue. Just a little longer. Dessert was served, chocolate cake, Grandma's recipe. And as they devoured it, Melissa raised her glass for a toast. To family. The ones who belong, and the ones who don't. She looked straight at me. I smiled. Actually, I said, placing my napkin on the table slowly, there's something I need to say. The room froze. All eyes on me. I took a breath. You're right, Melissa. I didn't belong here tonight. Not until this morning. I pulled out an envelope from my bag and slid it across the table. But now? I own this house. Dead silence. Melissa's smile dropped. Tyler leaned forward. What do you mean you own? The deed is in that envelope, I said calmly. Signed, sealed, and officially transferred. I bought it from the trust. Paid in full. As of 9 a.m. today, this house belongs to me. Greg scoffed. This is a joke, right? No joke, I replied. Check the name on the bottom line. It's mine. Aunt Karen opened the envelope with shaking hands, pulled out the papers, and read them aloud. Her eyes widened. She looked up in disbelief. Elain Harper, owner. Melissa's face went pale. She stared at me, completely speechless. And since I own this place now, I said, rising to my feet, I think it's time we talk about who really doesn't belong here. Melissa's fork slipped from her hand and clattered against her plate. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the now silent dining room. No one moved. No one spoke. It was like the oxygen had been sucked out of the house the moment they realized the truth. You bought the house? Melissa finally whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. But, how? You've always been broke? I finished her sentence with a calm smile. That's what you all assumed, right? Because I didn't flash money or brag about my life. Because I didn't show up in designer clothes or talk about my work. You thought silence meant failure. Tyler pushed back his chair and stood up. This is insane. You're lying. You've been freelancing your whole life. There's no way you had the money to buy this place. I didn't, until I built something. I reached into my bag again, pulled out a small tablet, and placed it on the table. This is the dashboard of the automation software I created. I sold it last month. Here's the transaction record. You can do the math. They all leaned in, eyes glued to the screen as the number appeared, $3,800,000. Uncle Ray's jaw dropped. Greg muttered a curse under his breath. And Melissa? She just stood there, frozen, her lips slightly parted like she couldn't figure out if she was more shocked or humiliated. I played the long game, I continued. While you were mocking me, throwing shade, planning dinners without inviting me, I was building something real. Quietly. Patiently. And now, I own this table, this roof, and every wall around you. Melissa's face flushed red. You think this makes you better than us? No, I said, shaking my head. I don't think I'm better. I think I just stopped letting you treat me like I'm less. Aunt Karen tried to smooth things over. Elain, sweetheart, you should have told us. We would have supported you, would you? I interrupted. You all laughed when I dropped out of college. You said I'd end up working at a gas station. You rolled your eyes when I talked about starting my own thing. No one believed in me. Not once. Greg stood up, defensive. This house was supposed to stay in the family. You blindsided us. I turned to him slowly. It did stay in the family. I am family. You just never treated me like I was. Melissa's eyes welled up with tears, not from sadness, but from pure rage. So what, now you think you're in charge? I smiled slightly and reached into the folder one last time, pulling out printed guest notices. Actually, yes. And since this dinner was planned behind my back, without my knowledge, and hosted in my home, I think it's only fair that I decide who gets to stay, and who doesn't. Tyler laughed, trying to lighten the mood. Come on, Elain. You're not actually gonna kick your own family out, are you? I looked him dead in the eyes. That depends. Are you finally ready to show me the respect I deserve? No one answered. I didn't think so. And just like that, I turned toward the front door and walked to the panel near the wall, the one connected to the new smart system I'd installed that morning. I tapped the screen. Security system engaged, it said. Melissa's eyes widened. What is this? I turned back, calm as ever. This is your gentle reminder. You don't get to humiliate me in my own house. Melissa lunged from her chair. Like she was about to protest, but the smart lock clicked audibly behind her. The sound made everyone jolt. Aunt Karen stood, nervously adjusting her pearls. Elain, this is going too far. This is still a family gathering. You can't just kick us out. I tilted my head. But you already did that to me, remember? When you left me off the invite list? When you planned this entire dinner in my house, assuming I was too poor to matter? You set the rules. I'm just following your lead. Greg stepped forward, his voice low and warning. This is ridiculous. You're doing this just to embarrass us. No, I said, leveling my gaze at him. You did that part already. I'm just returning the favor, with interest. Melissa's eyes were wide with panic now. She walked up to me slowly, the smugness completely drained from her voice. Elain, we're sisters. We grew up in this house together. Don't let money change you. I stared at her for a moment. And then I laughed, a quiet, bitter laugh. Melissa, money didn't change me. You did. All those years of treating me like I was invisible. All those jabs, those whispered jokes, those family votes where somehow I was always the one left out. I finally found a way to stand up for myself, and now you're scared of the version of me that doesn't need your approval. Uncle Ray, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke. So what now? You're just going to throw your entire family out? Over some dinner? This isn't about dinner, I replied. It's about what this dinner represents. You used this place to remind me I didn't belong. So now I'm reminding you that I do. In fact, I own it. I turned back to the control panel and tapped the screen again. Security, unlock main doors. A mechanical whir signaled the doors unlatched. You can leave on your own. Or I can have the system call private security. Your choice. For a second, no one moved. Then slowly, Tyler grabbed his coat. You know what? Fine. Enjoy your precious house. But don't come crying to us when your money runs out. I smirked. I won't. I built it myself. I'll build again if I have to. One by one, they gathered their things in silence. Greg tried to mutter something about lawyers, but even he could see the documents were legit. Melissa lingered at the door, tears now visible in her eyes. You're really okay being alone like this? I looked at her. This time, not with bitterness, but strength. I'd rather be alone in truth than surrounded by people who only clap when I'm losing. She blinked, stunned. And then, she walked out, the door closed behind her with a soft click. Silence again. But this time, it was peaceful. I stood alone in the dining room, my dining room, and looked around at the empty chairs. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a shadow in my own life. I felt seen. Powerful. Free. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer, final transfer complete. Full ownership confirmed. No outstanding claims. I sat down at the head of the table, where Melissa had been just minutes ago, and smiled. The silence in the house was different now, not cold, not bitter. It was clean. Empowering. I walked slowly through each room, barefoot, touching the walls I used to pass by like a ghost. This place used to echo with their laughter at me. But now? Every corner whispered a different story. Mind that I walked into Grandma's old room and opened the drawer beside her bed. Inside was a letter she had written before she passed. I'd read it 1,000 times, to the one who understands the value of roots, not just status. This home belongs to you. Protect it, and yourself. She had known. Even when no one else did. The next morning, a moving truck arrived. The house, once a shrine to their ego, was about to be transformed. I hired a local single mom who'd been struggling for work as my new interior designer. I gave contracts to small businesses in the neighborhood. People who'd once been ignored. Just like me, news of the dinner spread fast. A few of my relatives tried to check in days later, pretending nothing had happened. Melissa sent a text that just said, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. Instead, I posted a photo on my business profile. Me, standing on the front porch of the house, keys in hand, a quiet caption below. They said I didn't belong here. So I bought the place. It went viral. Comments poured in from people who had felt the same, underestimated, mocked, forgotten. And suddenly, I wasn't just Elain, the quiet dropout or the invisible cousin. I became something more. A symbol. That being the underdog doesn't mean you're powerless, it means you're just loading the slingshot. Weeks later, I hosted my own dinner in the house. But this time, the table was full of people who had lifted me, not laughed at me. My best friend Mia. The barista who cheered me on every morning. The woman I mentored last year who had just launched her own company. We raised a toast, not to revenge, but to resilience, because the truth is, the sweetest victory isn't just about proving them wrong, it's about knowing you were always right to believe in yourself, even when no one else did. And as I looked around that room, filled with love, growth, and real connection, I realized I didn't just buy a house that night. I took my place at the table, for good.